If you told me before the Switch generation started that in 7 years we would still not have an original Donkey Kong game on the platform, without a doubt I would call you a liar. Unfortunately, that's 100% true and the reality that we're facing right now. We have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, one of the earliest Switch games, but that's a port of the Wii U release which came several years prior. I get that there's a sort of hierarchy when it comes to Nintendo's game series, and some franchises get more games than others, but still, this is shocking to me. I can accept Donkey Kong getting less love than Mario, Zelda, or Pokemon, but 0 new games during the most successful console generation they've had in decades? It's baffling. And for some franchises, it gets worse still, because some of them, which I'll be talking about later in the video, might be teetering on the edge of extinction. And okay, we never actually know what Nintendo's planning, so there's always hope. And that hope is what we're going to be talking about today. Is there any hope for these neglected Nintendo franchises heading into 2024? The lack of new Donkey Kong titles is one of the more fascinating stats of the Switch generation. DK is one of the world's most recognizable video game characters, known and loved by millions. The fact that there's been so long of a drought for this IP is honestly hard to believe. It's not a stretch to think something Donkey Kong is coming soon, as it's very unlikely development for this major Nintendo IP just stopped. Based on status alone, I think we can take it to the bank. There will be a new Donkey Kong game hitting the Switch or its successor in the near future. The bigger question is, what will the new game look like? If you ask me, all signs point to a traditional Donkey Kong Country style platformer. We're long overdue for a new entry in the Country series, and the Nintendo Switch is the perfect place to launch one. Based on the legacy, quality, and success of the series, expecting a 2D game is the safe bet. And if this were the case, it's likely that Nintendo would enlist the help of previous DKC collaborator Retro Studios to do so. Retro is the team behind Metroid Prime, whose last game was the remaster, and before that, Tropical Freeze. So unless it's all hands on deck for Metroid Prime 4, it seems there's plenty of bandwidth there for a separate team to have worked on a new platformer. But maybe the wait for a new Donkey Kong game has been so long because they're going in a different direction, and a big new step for the franchise has been in the works. There's a chance that maybe rumors will be proven true and we'll end up getting a 3D Donkey Kong platformer closer to DK64 than any of the Country games. Something like this would be so cool to see, and of all the characters in Nintendo's stable, DK is certainly one of the top picks to star in his own 3D platformer. It wouldn't even be his first at-bat. While we know Donkey Kong is alive as a franchise, Star Fox is a Nintendo IP that's not even seen as much as a re-release in the Switch era. Fox did appear as a pilot exclusive to the Switch version of Starlink Battle for Atlas, a really cool game in its own right, but it's definitely not the same. I understand if there's trepidation around the idea of creating a new classic-style rail shooter. How much of that genre do we really see nowadays? Plus, our latest game in the Star Fox franchise, Star Fox Zero, used the Wii U gamepad's second screen and gyro controls to create a totally new and unique experience in the genre. Zero was one of the best uses of the Wii U hardware, and unsurprisingly, the game was created for that very purpose. Zero began development as a gamepad tech demo, totally not Star Fox related. Yet Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto noticed this new type of gameplay could translate well to the series, which is how that Star Fox game eventually materialized. In doing so, it evolved the series, and because of this, I can completely see why there's been such a long lull in following it up. Sure, they could create a similar experience with Nintendo Switch's gyro, but unless it was really innovative in terms of straight game design, it just wouldn't be as deep as Zero. And if they don't fully push the envelope, a new traditional Star Fox might not even be seen as different enough from 64 3D to warrant. A snappy, fun traditional Star Fox complete with Nintendo Switch gyro controls, I'm sure would be enjoyed by the hardcore audience. But coming up with a hook or a main selling point that's as strong as Zero's, now that's a tough job. But just because following up Zero is a hard challenge, that doesn't mean Nintendo won't do it. Sticking to a rail shooter definitely confines new game ideas, so maybe what the series needs is a reimagining, and the hook for a new game could be something completely unexpected. Star Fox has a lot of potential to go in different directions. They've already got experimental with Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube. Here, Fox was made to star in a 3D adventure game, while his crew and the traditional in our wing gameplay was relegated to more of a side event. Adventures is a mixed bag, so I can certainly understand the risk involved with doing something like this again. But with the series currently at a 7-year stall, it might be time. Does Fox leave his R-Wing yet again? But a 7-year stall doesn't seem as bad when you're talking about a 20-year one. And that's the unfortunate case for Nintendo's futuristic racer F-Zero. Unseen on the Nintendo Switch console aside from the classic re-releases on the online service, and of course, Captain Falcon in Super Smash Bros. As the years pass, F-Zero is creeping closer and closer to obscurity, and if you don't make an effort to go back and experience prior games, you'll have no idea how much fun the series can be. A new F-Zero game seems like something of a pipe dream right now. A certain other Nintendo racing franchise has done so impossibly well, is there really room for another? I wouldn't bet on seeing anything new from F-Zero on Nintendo Switch, but another part of me can kinda see it happening. Obviously F-Zero is very different from Mario Kart and fills its own niche. Plus, after seeing Metroid Dread materialize into what it was, I'll never say never again. I think this is the most likely scenario. We've seen a couple of GameCube remasters come to Nintendo Switch, a trend which could certainly continue. The GameCube's F-Zero GX is one of the best remaster candidates I can think of from that entire library. It's fast, colorful, and impressive. Exactly the type of game that could really impress in HD. Remember when Super Mario 3D All-Stars came out and people were saying that version of Super Mario Galaxy looked so good it could pass as a brand new Mario game? I could see the same thing happening with F-Zero GX. While I'm not worried about DK and I'm pretty confident we'll see Star Fox again one day, F-Zero's the one that I'm most worried about. That being said, we have to believe. And hey, with 2024 already having maybe the weirdest lineup of confirmed games I've ever heard, that being a Princess Peach game and a Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon remaster of all things, something new from F-Zero after 2 decades just might fit the bill.